Hi, this is Commodore Sam coming to you again. In our past videos, we've looked at drive speeds and how they compare across many different drives using various options. This new series, I want to start just looking and exploring in depth some of the new drive reproductions that are out now. This will include SD to IEC, which of course have been out forever. Or seems like forever in the modern age anyway. We're going to look at some of the reproduction CMD stuff from CoreI64.com. Those are some really great devices and now allows them to really to be available to anybody that wants to spend the money for them. They are premium products, but they're premium for a reason. So was CMD back in the day. Anyway, these reproductions have, opened up some ideas and some advancements as well, some enhancements, if you will. So we're going to look at those as well. Today, specifically, I'm going to explore somewhat in depth the GFD-4000, which is a modification of the CMD FD-4000. Originally, of course, CMD came out with the FD drives. They had a 2000 and a 4000. And the 4000, of course, would go all the way up to an extended density or extra density, an ED disk anyway, and would hold significantly more information. In today's world, of course, we are somewhat moving away from floppies. Some of us still like to stick a floppy in the drive and hear it spin and make all of its sounds, but let's face it, those are less reliable and are even more less reliable than they used to be, because they're all new old stock. If we're lucky, they're new old stock. So anyway, let's get into the GFD-4000 and take a look at it. Okay, the GFD-4000. The GFD-4000, before we talk about it, let's talk about where it came from. This is an original CMD FD-4000. The CMD FD-4000 was a major advancement as far as I'm concerned. Back in the 90s, they came out with this drive, which basically would emulate a 1581 in almost every way. You could use double density disks. You could read the 1581 disks. You could write the 1581 disks. But it also had additional native formats and would format it all the way up to an HD floppy disk, 3.5-inch floppy disk, and which would give you a maximum capacity of 1.6 megabytes per floppy disk on that high density formatted in native format. Now, of course, I'm not going to go into every single feature of the CMD FD. There's a plethora of them. A lot of functionality as far as partitions and all the like. So just an amazing device as it was back in the 90s. Now fast forward to 2024, I think, is when it was released. A lot happened in 2024. This all starts to run together. But CoreI64 comes out with Reproductions. Now they reproduced the 2000. They reproduced the 4000. So the 4000 in the original CMD was again a floppy disk drive that read all the same formats that the 2000 did, but it went all the way up to the ED disk, like I said before, which gave you a maximum capacity formatted on the disk of an ED disk, going all the way up to 3.2 megabytes. Now it would read all the other disks all the way down and had all the other same features that the 2000 had. It just had the higher capacity disk. I don't have one of those, and because they're super rare, and I never was able to get my hands on an original 4000. However, thanks to CoreI64.com, anyone can have one because he's reproduced them. Now he reproduces both the 2000 and the 4000. Still, they do have somewhat a limited use, the 4000 versus the 2000, because of the rarity of those ED discs. I have some, but you know, I don't use them because I'm almost too scared to use them. So anyway, because I don't want to ruin them. But in today's world, we don't have to live with using floppies. So we have the GFD. So what makes the GFD different? You know, it has the GoTech drive in it. And that GoTech drive, CoreI64.com worked with the Flash Floppy creators, updated the firmware, and you can now get that firmware. And that has been added as an enhancement to the FD-4000 drive. So what does that mean? Well, that means that I can take this USB thumb drive out of this device, just like, you know, using a GoTech on any other device. I can put this into a PC and I can load files onto it, and I can load those files in the extra density ED formats all the way up to a 3.2 megabyte disk. And again, this is emulating a disk, unlike what the SD to IC does. It kind of emulates a 1541, but not really. It plays some trickery to get where it's going, right? And so this is emulating more your traditional 1581, but again, you know, allowing disk sizes to go all the way up, having full compatibility with anything that worked with a 1581 or a CMD FD drive. So very powerful, but it's like an FD 4000 in every way. Same label generally as far as layout. It has a slightly different name to it, the GFD-4000, but all the other functionality is exactly the same. The swap buttons, the board on the inside is the exact same board that you have with a normal FD-4000. The ports on the back, exactly the same. The dip switches, and being able to switch those to whatever drive letter you want. In every way, shape, or form, this is exactly the same as a CMD FD-4000, except that it has the GoTech drive. Now, this GoTech drive adds a lot of functionality that we can now use to get our files on and off of our system. And if you're somebody that creates content like coding or, you know, writing programs, that kind of thing, then you also have the ability to easily back this up onto a PC and have version control and all of those things. And you can even do some things on the device itself, and so we'll look at that. What's great about it is I can tell what disk I'm on. I can easily swap disks, turning the dial or pressing the buttons, but you're probably going to turn the dial. I can use it in every way like the old original one, except the modern conveniences, the modern enhancements. So let's dive in. Let's look at the actual functionality of the drive and see what we can do with it and how it really works. Okay, I've got my GFD-4000 back in my normal setup. Commodore 64, running Jiffy DOS, various drives. The GFD is sitting at device 11. And so I've got it in device 11, so I'm going to issue the Jiffy DOS command to default my device to 11. And I come over here and I select the file that I want. And so I choose disk bench, which is a program that I normally use for my drive bench mark testing. I hit F1, and I see a directory just like I would normally see with a floppy disk, right? No different than any other drive. So from a functionality standpoint, it's a normal drive. The only difference is that I do have that ability to just spin the dial and choose my floppies, and I don't have to worry about those floppies degrading or losing them. And it even gets better. So let's talk about how it even gets better, and we'll zoom in straight into the device. We'll look at the USB drive first, and then we'll zoom in and take a look at the functionality of the front panel here on the device. So stay tuned. Okay, here we are with the USB drive out of the GFD-4000, and we've got that stuck into a Windows machine. So what you'll notice here is you'll just see a list of files looking like a normal file structure. The USB drive itself, if you look at the format of it, you'll see that it is a FAT32 formatted USB drive. This one happens to be a 32 gigabyte. And so it's just FAT32. That's really all you have to do to make it compatible, is format it to that. Inside of that drive, just in the root structure, you just have to have your image files. And so they can be anything from a D81 which is basically 800 kilobytes, all the way up to a D4M disk image, which is 32 or 3.2 megabytes. And so you can also have D2Ms, which is the 1.6 native format of an HD disk. So you have all of the disk types that will work in an FD-4000. These images, by the way, you may have seen them if you looked hard. You may have seen them available on Vice inside of the Windows emulation. It's basically the same formats. Obviously, a lot of software is available on D81. You can put that, just throw that right on the USB drive and go. A D64, you'll notice, is missing. The FD-4000 wasn't written to read 1541 discs. It was written to read 1581 and above. So therefore, the hardware inside of the drive is probably not compatible with a D64 without modifications. That being said, you can always copy the files from a D64 onto a D81. And unless it's one of the programs that is particular about being on a 1541, it's probably going to run. If you wanted to do that, obviously you can use the 64 to copy those files onto the D81 using the GFD, or you can use a PC and some program that's able to read and write D81s, D64s, etc. And we may explore that in this episode. We may do that in a subsequent one. We'll see what the length of the video looks like. But in all cases, we're using the GFD-4000, when we are using a typical 64 setup. When we're copying with a Commodore 64, because the GFD-4000 is a normal floppy device, we can use all the same copy tools that we use to do anything else. Use Maverick, use Copy2, or use the CMD utilities and their copy programs. So all of those are available because it really is a standard drive as far as the Commodore 64 is concerned. What will not work is something that does require a 1541 hardware. Obviously, like I said, you have that problem across, always with those type of programs. So let's look at the actual operation of the drive. Okay, this is a close-up of the front panel of the GFD-4000. You'll notice that, just like I was saying before, you got an LCD screen, you've got a USB drive. This is the one we just looked at on the Windows machine. You've got two navigation buttons here, and you have the rotary dial here, used for navigation as well, a much better navigation. And then you have your swap button that CMD is famous for, to swap to drive 8 or drive 9. And then, of course, your activity and error lights. So the way you typically operate this drive, again, you have this USB in here. It has all the different images that we talked about before. And you just rotate the dial to the image that you want to insert. And so if I rotate the dial to disk bench here, then I rest on that for just 1 second, and it's basically inserted and ready to use on the computer, on the 64. So I can do a directory, I can operate on that disk, which happens to be a disk image, just like I would a normal floppy with all the normal 64 tools. If I use copy programs or anything else, they'd all work the same way as they do on a standard floppy. So what I do when it's time to change disks, well, I just reach over here and maybe my program's asking for a disk change. I just rotate to the next disk and I get that. And I wait, and that disk is now inserted, and then I would be able to operate on that disk. Now, if I go to a folder, so like Wheels 64 here, and I rest on that folder, and it's designated with brackets around it, so it was one of the folders that we saw on the PC. But when I rest on that folder, it automatically moves into that folder and mounts the first disk image in that folder. This one happens to be side 1 of Wheels 64. Now, if I was operating Wheels 64 and it asked for the second, side 2, or if I had a multi-disc game or whatever, I would just come over here when it asked for it. I would rotate to disk 2 and wait a second, and that would be mounted, and it would work just like normal. Now, I can, on all these functions, I can just rotate, and if I rest, then it pretty much already does whatever I need it to do. But I also can, if I rest on a double dot, most of you will know that double dot represents the previous folder. So if I rest on that double dot, then it automatically takes me up 1 level, and then I can rotate to go through that level. Now, I don't have to wait the second or whatever. If I want to go ahead and move up the chain, I can just hit push the selector in and press in on the selector, and go ahead and execute whatever I want to execute. Now, that's the basic function of how you insert disks using a GFD. If you've ever used a Gotek, you already knew all those things probably. So anyway, that's the way that works. Now, let's say that there are some more advanced functions. So let's say that I wanted to delete a file. I could go in here, and so I've got this disk bench program that I've used multiple times, and so disk bench has always sticks a file on there, and maybe I don't want to do maybe I don't want the space taken up by disk bench anymore, and I want to remove that. Well, I can select it, and I can press it a second time, and it'll go into this menu, and this menu has multiple functions. So it comes up by default to eject menu, and if I choose that, then it gets back out of the menu. Okay, but if I'm in there, and so I press 1 to select it, I press it again, and I go into the eject. Then when I go down, I can see these other functions too. I've got write protect, which I can turn that on and off. I can copy, I can paste, I can delete, and I can exit to selector and exit and reinsert. So I have all of these functions that are provided by Flash Floppy to operate on these on this particular image that I'm doing. So I could hit copy on disk bench that image, and then I could go to paste, and it asks me to confirm paste. I say yes, and then now it's saying that it's pasting 000. Well, what that did was I'm gonna come back up here to exit menu. If I spin forward now, you will see a disk-bench.000. Well, it created a copy of that file or that image, and allowed me to then it's almost like a backup system. Now, if I go and I click on that again, and I come down here to copy again, and then I come down here to paste, and it says confirm paste, and now it's creating 001. So imagine this: you're using a disk image. Maybe you're writing code, maybe you're got a game that's saving its state or something to that effect, and you want to keep a copy of that, but you don't want to have to take it out, put that thumb drive into a PC and do it right away. I can go ahead and just copy that image directly on here without using any other device, just on the device itself. So I could have multiple iterations of multiple copies of that at different points in the process. So it's real powerful just using the Flash Floppy software inside of the actual GFD-4000. Pretty powerful, pretty interesting thought process that maybe you don't think of when you think of operating a disk drive on a Commodore 64. So very, very interesting, very neat. Has a lot of functionality that you just don't normally have with a floppy drive. So let's go a little bit further and say, okay, how do I get more things into a D81? Because so many things are available on a D64. What's the easiest way to get it into a D81? So let's look at that. Okay, so I think we can all agree the GFD-4000 is a pretty amazing device. Has a lot of benefits. It just feels nicer to use than an SD to IEC. The navigating with the rotary dial to me is preferable. I just like the way that it works. If I had to say there was a negative of the GFD-4000, it would be the fact that so many files, so many programs come in D64 these days. And that's what a lot of people are used to as well. And so the downside is it won't use those D64s. So what do I do? Well, if I want to use my GFD to really be able to have my whole library of stuff? How do I get my D64s into a D81? And so I would tell you that there's a lot of different ways. Like I said, I think I've mentioned before, you can use the normal 64 copy routines and all that. But there are some downsides to that. It is file management on a Commodore 64 is not the most fun thing in the world. It's much more fun to use than to actually try to manipulate files. So that being said, we would this program here, Directory Master or DIR Master, is one that I found on the internet and that I just love. I just love the way that it works. I love all the functionality, and it does have a lot of functionality. So, for example, just in using this program, I believe it only runs on Windows, so that might be a downside for some of you. But if I go in here and I say I want to open a disk, and I've got my a D64 sitting here in a temporary folder. Now this is a D64 of one of the popular terminal emulation packages, CCGMS. If I double click on that, you'll notice that it opens a window up with that image. And it looks almost like I just did a directory listing on a Commodore 64. And so, pretty sweet. I can operate on this disk in a lot of different ways with this program. I can rename the disk. I can rename the individual files. I can select this file here and I can rename it. How many times have you copied files from one disk to another and they just weren't in the right order, and you wanted to be able to just hit your up arrow asterisk and load the first one, or hit one of the other key combos to load the first file. You can actually move files around. I can say, I want that one down here. I can move it back up here and say, I'm put it back where it belongs, right where it was originally. I can organize the disk in pretty much any way that I want. So really do some good manipulation, right? I'm going to so you can do a lot of things with that particular disk. But one thing you can also do is you can come right here and you can say disk and new. If I can stay on it, and you can create these other file types. So if I want to create a D81, and so I'm gonna have a 1581 disk image with the same number of blocks as normal, and then I just create one, and I can come over here and I can rename this disk. And so it shows up blank right now. So let's say that I want to rename it the same as the other one. So I go CC GMS 2021, hit enter, and so now I've got this D81 image with the same name. I can affect the ID as well. So but we're not going to do that. Now, how do I get these files from this image to this image? It's pretty simple. I highlight, shift click, I click the first one, shift click the last one, and I just drag that baby over there, and now I've got these files sitting in this D81 image. So I got a D64 and a D81 that are this, the same file contents. Now, and then I go, and so I say, okay, I'm done with that one. I don't need you anymore. And it's asking me if I want to, because I did move it around. So I'm going to say, no, I don't want to save those changes. This one here, I do want to save. So I'll you could hit close, or you can just say, you can hit the X and say, yes, I want to save this. And I say yes, and so I gave the file inside the image itself its correct name of CCGMS 2021. Now it wants to know what I want the actual image file, the D81 file, to be named. That was probably obvious to all of you, but anyway, that I can come right here and I can say, okay, well, I want this one to be CCGMS 2021 as well, and hit save. And so now if I open up that folder, if I go to the folder here, I've got a copy of this D81. Now, of course, I can just throw that on my USB drive and slap it into my GFD-4000, and I've got everything just like I want it. Really powerful tool. Really powerful tool. I really do like this program. DIR Master Got it all, you just Google it. Obviously I'm not going to go over every function that it has, but it's got some, it really is a nice program to be able to get your environment set up the way that you want it. Very powerful. And that will allow you to really set up your GFD-4000 and your other drives the way that you want them to be set up, and really have a nice configuration that's intuitive. And so I hope that helps people out. I hope the guy that wrote or gal that wrote DIR Master continues to support it, because it really is a nice program to complement your Commodore 64 and your CMD devices. You'll notice that when you look at the disk and the new function, you have all of the different formats that are available for CMD, in addition to several others, some that I've never even heard of before. Anyway, guys, I hope this really allows you to see how nice how turn the camera around here. Hopefully that's not too close. Anyway, I hope this allows you to see how nice it can be using a GFD-4000. I really love the device. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Commodore peripheral. I think I like it even better than the HD. HD's nice, so don't get me wrong about that either. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I really do love my GFD-4000. Thanks, and I will see you in the next video.